Hi, Pete's fans. Welcome to our latest episode of For Pete's Sake. It is February 24th. I feel like it's been a while since we brought you some content. Apologies for that. I was fighting some illness. We had some family stuff come up. It's been a busy time, but we are back for another episode of our Pete's podcast where we bring you our takes and all Pete's news. I am your co-host, Josh Reeser. As always, with me is my twin brother, co-host, Encyclopedia of OHL Knowledge, and diehard Pete's fan, Matt Reeser. We are getting near the end of February, which means we are entering the final month of the season. We have a show that is maybe a little bit more somber than ones in the past. We are recapping a stretch of games which more than likely has seen the end of the Pete's chances in the playoffs. We have a number of games to recap because we did miss recording, as we said. So we're not going to get too heavy into the details on a game-by-game basis. We're just going to quickly recap some scores, some brief highlights maybe from each game, and then we are going to dive into what we think went wrong, what the rest of the season might look like, and where the Petes go from here. Because it has been a roller coaster of a season, and especially in the last few weeks, unfortunately, probably a bit of a down portion of the roller coaster. So we will get started. Hopefully you guys are staying warm and not getting bogged down by all that snowy weather out there. But let us go all the way back to 2 games versus Ottawa 67s. Last episode we posted, those were the must-win games at the time. Pete's absolutely flying, and they had a golden opportunity to chase down the team directly in front of them. Ottawa was 5 points ahead of them with 2 games back-to-back. The Petes could have been 1 point back with Ottawa 67s. I was feeling it. I know Matt was feeling it. Unfortunately, the Petes just came away with 2 of the more disappointing results of the year. A 3-0 loss in Ottawa, and then a game that was actually postponed one night due to the weather, and a Friday night game which saw very little fan attendance, again, due to the weather, due to the odd timing, the odd night. The Petes dropped their second game of the week to the Ottawa 67s. 4-1. That for me was basically the significant blow to their playoff chances in my mind. I don't want to dwell on it. It just wasn't good enough. You have certain games of the year which, you know, there's the old adage, every game is important. And hockey's a long season, so there is some truth to that. But these were absolutely must-win games, and to come out and not get a single point, to score 1 goal in 2 games, it's not good enough. The guys needed to dig deep and find a way to at least get some points. They realistically needed 4 points there. So disappointing to see. Nice thing I will say is Brady Stonehouse against his old team. He absolutely did not hold back. He's one guy buzzing. We'll have more on him later, but he's been a guy that's just left his heart on his sleeve. Unfortunately, it looks like his time in Peterborough will come without playoffs, but he has been dragging his team into the fight most nights, so good to see there.
Yeah, there are some things that were concerning. McCallum getting tossed for 2 games for a slew foot.
Yeah.
It hurts when one of your veteran guys go down. He plays on the edge, so you're going to get some of those penalties sometimes. But he gets suspended for 2 games, so now you're down an important forward. And then the next game, Fitzgerald goes hard into the boards, holding his wrist, and then he's out, so now you're down 2 more forwards.
And Fitzgerald was he was starting to look like a dominant player in this league as a rookie. He was getting points every game, and it wasn't just like points where he dumps it up the board, someone else scores. He was driving play. He was using his size. He's looking like a guy that can and will be a force in this league. So tough for Colin Fitzgerald. I don't know about you. Now there's certainly no reason to rush him back.
No.
Get him healthy. You want to get him some playing time, but maybe if the games mean something, you try and get him back as one of your more important players, but you're cautious with him now.
Yeah, I think the thing to play that told you how kind of how bad this could have gone for them, and I think it was probably the worst outcome for the Petes. Not trying to be negative, that's just what it is.
No,
they lost 2 games with 1 goal.
Be a realist.
Is when the second game happened in Peterborough, you have 1 second left on the clock and there's a face-off in your own end, so it's not even a set play.
Yeah.
And they win the draw and don't tie anybody up, and they score to tie the game up at 1.
Yeah.
It's basic coverage in your own end when you're holding a 1-goal lead.
Yeah.
In your own end off. It can't, it just can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to tie your guys up. You got and that just comes down to little details, to executing, and to and when those details fall apart, you don't win. Yeah. So you got to be on your game the whole time. The Petes weren't. Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah. So disappointing to see. Still, we're not bashing on the boys. We're still big Petes guys. We love going to the games. I was really looking forward to some Pete's playoff hockey. I will again. I'm going to continue to watch them down the stretch. I look forward to some great plays, but those were hard to watch in my mind. I came away disappointed. So much so that the next night, the Petes actually beat Kingston. Kingston's had our number this year. They won 3-2 in a shootout, and It didn't feel like celebrating, like it almost, those 2 losses kind of hampered the win in my mind. It's hard to say because I love a Pete's win, but I saw that and I was like, well, imagine if we'd won those other 2 and we had a 3-win week versus, oh, well, we lost 2, great, we win, but it's just a consolation prize. That's what I came away with. Again, Stonehouse scored in the shootout. Bowen was strong, so there's little victories, but at this point, little victories aren't enough. Yeah. The Petes need to be winning games, and the fact that they couldn't pull it off at the crucial moments hurts. Yeah. So, anyways, the next game was actually the Family Day game. I was in attendance for this one, so was my little guy, Ron. He's got a pretty good record at Pete's game, so we'll see going forward. I might have to drag him out, and if we want to make the playoffs, maybe I just have to bring my son to every game. So maybe it's on me. Anyways, this was a really chippy game. We were chatting about this kind of off air, but it's weird that our chippy games have been last couple of years have been like Brantford, Kitchener, Erie, Oshawa, London. So I don't know where that's coming from, but this was especially chippy. After the whistle, lots and lots of rough stuff. There was a fight. The coach of one of the funniest moments of the year so far. The coach, Luke, going absolutely berserk on the ref and getting tossed. Kitchener's coach, and of course the fans sit right behind the Kingston bench, so able to kind of wave him off and cheer for him. But a lot of emotion. To the boys' credit, this was a 5-3 win. So good on the boys. Again, another victory. It felt nice to get the win in front of fans. So that part is exciting. Again, they got off to a horrible start, down 3-0. 5 straight goals. There's something to say about not giving up even when the game gets tough. I thought Stonehouse was great again. A trend where he just doesn't give up. He reminds me, of like a Marchand or like a Kachuk, or that's just going all out no matter what the score is. He was right in the middle of the rough stuff. He doesn't shy away. I think when the game gets that way, it elevates his game. Yeah. Matejchuk actually scored the game winner.
Got 2 goals. Didn't he?
2 goals. Yeah, he was great on the night. So nice to get a win against a team we don't see all that often. There were lots of Kitchener Rangers fans there, so nice to send them home disappointed as well, and nice for the boys to come away with a win. But still, I've still found that the wins aren't quite as sweet given where the Petes are currently. And that brings us to our most recent stretch of games. We had the Bulldogs and the Barrie Colts. What did you see in those ones?
Yeah, so these are kind of like mirror images of each other, these games. So the first game they're both 4-3 losses for the Petes. The Brantford game, the first 40 minutes was heavily dominated by the Bulldogs. They were drawing penalties with their speed. In my opinion, the reffing wasn't very great. There's some very mediocre calls. One led to a 5-on-3, which Lardis scored on. So the game, and Lardis got a hat trick in this one.
He's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Props to Lardis.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off again. Like former Pete, I know he doesn't play for us anymore. Like he's just scoring at will. He's making it look so easy out there. And it's easy to look back on the trade and be like, oh man, we gave up that. But we got Avery Hayes, we got Gavin White in that deal. It worked out for us.
Yeah.
We went to the Memorial Cup. So that was a win-win in my mind. But good on him, taking the league by storm. Hopefully he can parlay that into a successful pro career. Good on you, Nick Lardis, former Pete.
Yeah, so he got a hat trick, which included his 60th of the year, which is crazy.
That's wild. Yeah.
But he earns every bit of it.
Yeah.
He has a lethal shot.
Yeah.
He gets to open space really well. But it was just the Petes got themselves behind 4-1. They had it 1-1 at one point off of Adam Levesque goal. Nice to see him get rewarded because he works hard. Doesn't get a lot of ice time, but he's starting to get more and more creative, and you're seeing his skill come through. And then Bowen actually made a huge glove save on Lardis at one point. He could have got 4 easily in the game.
Yeah.
But then the third period was like the Pete's bombardment of the Bulldogs. They outshot them 23-7, got 2 goals. Partridge got on the board, and then McCallum got on the board. But it's just, you dug yourself too big of a hole, 4-1. And Leanders is a net on the other side, so you're playing a good goalie. And then Stonehouse nearly sent it to overtime. He had a really good chance with the goalie pulled, but it's one of those scenarios. You get behind by too much, and then you're battling the whole game. Really, really strong effort of not going away and staying with it, but they just couldn't get that tying goal. So another tough loss. I think that's probably the theme of the year so far, is just tough losses with one goal here or there going the other team's way, and you come out with no points.
Yep. Agreed.
And then the Barrie Colts game was the opposite. The Petes dominated the first 2 periods. They actually had leads of 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. And Caden Taylor scored one of his textbook of top shelf bullets. Nice to see him get one of those off. And then Brian and Stonehouse would score, so Stonehouse continuing his really strong play. And then they go into the third period and they're up 3-2. And then Barrie comes out in the third and outshoots the Petes 19-7. So it's like the reverse of the Brantford game.
Right.
And they score 2 goals in the final 5 minutes, and it's a 4-3 win for Barrie. But Easton Rye made 40 saves in this one again. But they stuck with the Barrie again. Tough team to play against. But again, it's 2 4-3 losses, and unfortunately, there's no moral victories in hockey. You can outwork a team, but at the end, the work has to produce results. Yep. And I think this season's kind of been, the work ethic's always been there. You're never going to question it with the Petes, but the results have just not been there. And really, really untimely penalties and goals have kind of cost them valuable points. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to see, because I believe this roster that they have right now is a playoff roster.
I 100% agree.
I look at our roster and I see it's better than some of the teams that are in the playoffs, and I'm like, we should be there.
Yeah. It feels like no, I 100% agree. I feel like, it's one thing if we're stripping down and we're starting our rebuild and we don't have the guys to compete, and we're, like last year, where, it started to go off the rails and we knew we had to tear down. Yeah. And that's fine. We're still a fresh roster. I get that. But in a league where you have such short windows where guys commit to your team, you need to take that step forward. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Petes haven't. Again, sorry. Like you said, it's not for lack of effort. Like, it looks like the guys are trying most nights. Yeah. But yeah, it's just it's untimely You said untimely penalties, untimely goals here, there, untimely losses. If you want to look at it on a bigger scale, each time it looks like there's some momentum, and the guys are fired up, and the fans are fired up, and it's like, oh, we're rolling, we might get there. There's excitement. It's a dud.
Yeah,
and you can't have that inconsistency. You got to be able to maintain a steady pace of play over the course of the year. That's the only way you get in. It looks like, you know, we probably aren't. We're probably on the outside looking in again, which is unfortunate because it's exciting hockey.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but there's been some highlights for sure. You've already kind of mentioned it, but Stonehouse has been come as advertised.
Yeah.
He's been driving the team when they need energy. He's been scoring big goals.
Yeah.
He's playing on an overage line with Brian and Malie and really dictating the pace of the game. I've been really impressed with him.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, when he was on Ottawa, I hated him.
Oh, 100%.
I think that's what player he is, though.
Yeah. He's a Brady Tkachuk or a Matthew Tkachuk or a Marchand.
Yeah.
You love him on your squad, but yeah. And he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
And to his credit, you know, he's a guy well documented, wasn't drafted, earned a contract with Edmonton, because he just works his tail off and is a guy that will go to battle with you.
Yeah.
So good on you, Stonehouse. I would have loved to see him
get rewarded
in a playoff. Yeah, rewarded with playoff hockey. Wasn't meant to be.
And they're not eliminated. They could make it. It's just very highly unlikely at this point with what the hole they've dug themselves in.
Yep.
But who says North Bay or Ottawa just goes on a crazy losing streak and the Petes don't win the rest of their games?
Yeah.
It's just hard to see with the trends that have been happening this year. But I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, 100%.
And then Matachuk on the back end. I don't think you could debate who's been the best defenseman on this team all year.
Absolutely.
He plays huge minutes. When Carson Cameron was injured, he played even more minutes, and he's got 10 goals on the season.
And noticeably more physical, I thought, this year, too.
Yeah.
Not that he was ever, like, shying away from that stuff, but I would have said he played more of a position stick check, and he was good at it.
Yeah.
And he's been throwing his weight around. He hasn't been afraid to get, you know, when there's scrums after the whistle, someone goes after the goalie, to be in there pushing and shoving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think he's been a really good bright spot on this team.
I agree.
And there's been other defensemen. I think Ula's proved that he's a top four defenseman.
Yeah. I like what I've seen from Gowan.
Yeah, Gowan. He's getting more and more confident.
Yeah.
They have a really good defensive core.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like that based on the goal differential.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can blame that on anybody on the team in particular.
Yeah.
It just hasn't gone their way, but I feel confident in the blue line pieces we have.
Yep.
That you can build something for the next 2 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then for me, I think one of the big trends of the last few weeks is you're seeing McCallum get back to last year when he was late in the season and he was dominating games. He wasn't taking like bad penalties. He never really does. He just plays on the edge, so he's going to get tossed a few times here or there. Mm-hmm. But now you're seeing him be like smarter when he takes the body. You're seeing him score big goals. You're seeing him set up players. You're seeing him be that impact player that the Petes know he can be. And for me, I think that's one of the reasons the Petes aren't a playoff team is because he hasn't been at that level enough.
Yeah. And
that's not to knock on McCallum. I love him as a player. I think it's just something that I've seen this year where if you told me how many goals he has right now, I would have said we would have way more.
Yeah.
Just because he was so dominant at the end of last year. He was winning games by himself.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing that player emerge. And I hope it's like a sign of things to come, because I would love him to take the model of a Stonehouse and bring that forward. Because if he can turn into a Stonehouse where he's plays on the edge, takes the odd penalty, gets big goals, gets big assists, that's what you want.
Yeah.
And I think McCallum has shown that he can be that in the last 3 or 4 games especially. Yep. I don't know if you agree, but I've noticed a difference in his production and just general play.
Again, we're optimists on this show, but he wasn't good enough earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Especially coming off the way he ended last year. He had a chance to really come into this year as a big leader on the team, a guy that other guys would hate to play against, and where he would contribute and make their lives miserable.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times his penalties were actually hurting the team and he wasn't scoring enough to justify it.
Yeah.
He seemed to have figured it out. It might be a little bit too late in the season now, but
it's encouraging.
So it's there. It's absolutely there, and we knew he was a player that could do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can keep that going down the stretch and into next year.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed it, but like the Partridges, Levesques, Parishes, I think they've been really impressive considering the ice time they've been getting.
Yep.
They're always in the corners battling. They play their role. They chip in big goals.
Yeah.
I think they've been very valuable, and I think the coaching staff is starting to trust them more and more with ice time.
You agreed? Yeah. There's been games where they're the number one line.
Yeah.
Which is nice for them, but it's also not a recipe for winning a lot of games when your bottom six or your fourth line is the one that's turning heads.
Yeah.
And the guys that are out there that are supposed to be driving play are, more, harder to see.
Yeah.
It does happen. People go through dry spells. Again, not bashing anyone in particular, but that's when your third and fourth lines are the guys that are outshining the rest of the team. That usually isn't a recipe for long-term success.
Yeah.
When they're out there and they look very good along with the rest of the team, and you're like, wow, this team has depth.
Yeah.
That's when you got something.
Yeah.
And that's when you got something special. So it's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying, oh, I wish that line wasn't as good by any means.
Yeah.
It just can't be your number one go-to option. You need your top players to be top players.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the last one, I think this has been noticed for a while, but Easton Rye, I think you could argue he's
unbelievable.
He's demonstrated he can carry a starter
Absolutely.
load. He's played incredible this season.
Yep.
You can ask enough from him this year, especially with the Bowen injury and having to step in.
Yeah.
Played back-to-backs and looked fine, looked solid.
Mm-hmm. And we've hit on it before, as an unknown for me. Like and it wasn't anything he did. It was just, he was blocked by Simpson and Stützle.
Yeah.
And then, didn't really have an opportunity to prove himself.
Yeah.
He had the games here or there. And so I didn't know what he was. I didn't know what he could be. And so he steps in, and for him to just look as comfortable as he has been outstanding.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one question I have for you, so you can only play two imports on your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have Matachuk, who's not an overager this year.
Right.
Kaiser can come back as well.
Yeah.
And then you have that guy you drafted from the Czech.
Yeah.
That's a forward that's supposed to be dominant and might come over.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you do there.
I know,
because
it's a tough problem to have.
Because Matachuk to me has earned the right to come back.
Yeah.
And you would want him back.
Yeah.
Kaiser came over at the end after the World Juniors. You're not going to say, hey, come here for a little bit and then take a walk.
Yeah.
And then what if this Czech forward is as good as they say? Like, you want some offensive punch because we're going to lose Bryant, Stonehouse, and Malik.
Yep.
So you're going to want some forwards. Like, I would hate to be in the position to decide what you're going to do. And then you're probably going to have a high import pick this year.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Like, it's like...
Yeah, honestly, I would struggle with this.
Yeah.
You have to look at it just not personal at all.
Yeah.
What's best for the team? What does the team need? Team needs goals.
Yeah.
Well, then we have to bring over this Czech forward.
Yeah.
And you got to decide, on the back end, which guy you think's going to help the team more.
Or if you have a high pick in the import draft, you bring another... Maybe that's the guy that comes.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you think you're a position of strength on the back end and you can let one of those guys go even though they're great players versus, not bringing in a forward? Is that going to hurt more? You just have to look at it completely business like. That would be incredibly tough. I know that's why they get paid the bucks to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. My gut tells me they need more scoring.
You got a logjam on defense right now.
Yeah, I mean...
That's not a bad thing to have, but you've got, every night, they're playing 7 defense right now.
Yeah.
And they still haven't played Marinetti, and they still...
Yeah.
They still have guys on the back end that could come in and
Absolutely.
play. So you need, at some point, you got to have some offensive...
Agreed.
I don't know. To me, I'm not saying I don't have any inside information.
Yeah.
But you have Rye and Johnson who prove they can be goalies. Bowen's done everything right this year to be a Pete, and he's played his tail off for this team. His record should be a lot better based on his game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved.
Yeah.
Just because you have goalies in the system. They signed Dylan Leestack from that US.
I saw that. I was going to ask you about if you had any idea what that meant at this point in the year, just to get him some reps, or I don't know, because I hate taking reps away from Johnson too. Like, it seems like this is, now that we're likely not in a playoff game, like a playoff team, like, get Johnson some reps.
Yeah.
He's going forward, like, this is his year 2 now.
Yeah.
You don't want him
learning in year 3.
Getting to the point where he's figuring it out, and it's like, oh, now he's gone. Like, you want to develop him a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So get him some games.
Yeah.
Is what I was thinking. I don't know.
I feel like one of Bowen, Rye, or Johnson's going to be traded. They just don't have room to play all of them.
Yeah.
And they deserve to all be playing.
Yeah.
And how do you tell a kid that's given everything to the team?
And then there's more goalie, like the Jelinek kid looked good in camp last year. So it's a problem to have. It's a good problem to have goalie depth.
Yeah.
Defense depth. It's tough decisions.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be interesting ahead, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft.
Yeah.
What they do in the off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a later topic, but I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's hard now that we're I think basically out of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, not statistically, still a chance. We're going to hold on to that. But it's hard not to your mind automatically wanders to what's next for the Petes when playoffs look like it's a long shot.
Yeah. So why don't you break that down, because we've kind of talked about it. So why don't we kind of say how the playoff push is going for the boys right now?
Yeah. So playoffs. 11 points out of 8th place, 11 games remaining. Again, we talked about it. There's been highs, little moral victories over the past couple weeks. Wins against Kitchener, Kingston, the back-to-back losses to Ottawa, gut punches, losses to Brantford and Barrie. Not good enough. I think, real quick, you're going to look back on this season as missed opportunities. So you look at games against the Sioux Greyhounds, 2 losses in 2 games.
Not a goal in either of them.
Not a goal in either of them. Shutout losses against a team that's actively unloading. You win those games, there's 4 additional points. You had 5 of 6 losses, correct me if I'm wrong, against Ottawa.
Yeah.
That's the team you're directly chasing. That right there puts you in contention, if not in a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Can't happen. Loss against Guelph, they're rebuilding. That there's games against teams. Flint was a disappointing loss a couple of weeks ago. Now Flint's not a horrible team, but it's a winnable game. And that's what has been hard for me this year is the Petes have shown against good teams, or for even a period in a game, that they're a very strong team and that they can be a playoff team and they can play with the guys in this league. And then they've shown moments where they just drop duds, and it's always at the worst time.
Yeah.
And so I think you look back, and those are just points left on the table.
Yeah.
And you win those 2 Owen Sound games. You win the Guelph game. You win a couple of those Ottawa games. Not even all 5. A couple of them. North Bay. There was a game earlier in the season. You're up 3-0 early against North Bay, and you lose that game.
Yeah.
There's been other games where we... as recently as the latest loss to Barrie, we're up 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. You don't hold a lead, you lose a game, you don't even get a point.
Yeah.
I think the season's going to come down to missed opportunities, which kept them out of the playoffs, which is frustrating. On the bright side of this, it looks like I'm on a tangent, but is I know for a fact that the coach and guys are pissed about it.
Yeah.
Which is good to see. If they were kind of just like, oh, well, always next year, I would be disappointed.
Yeah.
That loss a couple of weeks ago against the Sioux Greyhounds, where it was a shutout loss, lopsided, at home, coming off such a strong week the week before, on air, the coach saying practice after that game was difficult.
No.
The boys were not good enough. We had a video session that was hard on the boys. We put them through a tough practice. They need to know this isn't good enough. I loved hearing that. You need accountability in this league. Otherwise, winning just becomes second nature. That can't happen. I don't think it will. And so I want this horrible taste of hockey not being played at a high enough level and knowing you have more to give. I want that going forward, and I think that will lead to better days down the road. Maybe down the stretch and into next season.
Yeah.
So I loved hearing that, but again, I think it's a missed opportunity season. I think the core had a chance to really get some meaningful playoff games in, and I think it's a year lost.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the actual stats. Ottawa, who they're chasing, are 7 points clear of the Petes for 9th place. 3 of the next 4 games are against North Bay and Peterborough for Ottawa. So you can see them kind of shuffle up and down a bit. The Petes are actually dead last again now. So what that means, it is a lottery for the draft, but there was a point where they were like 1 point out of being last in the league, and they were chasing some teams in the West there, but they're in last place. North Bay's 11 points clear of Peterborough, like we said, and they have a 4-point gap between themselves and Ottawa, so they're creating a bit of distance. With some strong play, they can cement themselves into another playoff spot, which is pretty impressive considering they've been a very
loaded.
good team.
They loaded their whole first line.
Well, they were like conference playoff teams for 3 years in a row, and then they still find a way to get in despite Wakely and Van Steetzl, like Romani all leaving. So whatever that organization's doing, like they figured out how to keep winning. So good on them. But yeah, it's not statistically done. It just seems very insurmountable. The boys are going to have to get white hot, and they just haven't shown the ability to put that many games together in a row yet. Maybe they fool us. Imagine they just don't lose for the rest of the year and they sneak in. Would be fantastic. If I was a betting man, I would say it's really, really, really going to be tough now. So that's kind of where I see it. So, 13 games remaining for those battalion. Like we said, 4 points up on Ottawa, 11 up on the Petes, and they have 4 games this upcoming week, including a big matchup against those 67s.
Yeah.
So it's not in our hands anymore. We have to win, and other teams have to lose in order for us to get in, which is also a tough part of the year.
Yeah. Well, it's still good hockey still, because the Petes will always put full value in. So they have a busy week coming up.
Absolutely.
They've got Windsor coming in on Thursday. Windsor's been a top 3 team in the West all year, battling Kitchener and London at the top of the standings. They've got high point getters in Greentree and Protus, who are both 3rd and 4th respectively in the league. They score in bunches. They play physical. They got the first overall pick from the draft from Belchitz. They're just a good team up and down the lineup. So you'll have to bring your best effort forward to beat a team like Windsor. But usually the Petes play better against upper echelon teams this year. So it could be a really exciting game to go to and see what the Petes give Windsor. Because they'll bring their best. You always expect them to. And especially against a team like Windsor, who's traveling and is playing games before them. So they should be a little bit tired. Why not just roll the cards, dice, and see what you come up with for that one? For me, anyway, they could beat them.
Agreed.
And then they've got Brantford again for the last time this season on the road. That will be a tough game, but they've shown they can play with Brantford all year. They've lost all the games, but there's been 4 or 5 of them have been 1 goal. Some have been shootouts. And Lardis, you just got to slow his line down, which is easier said than done.
Yep.
Because he got another hat trick last night. He's got 63 now.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So that's another tough game. And then you got Erie Otters to wrap up the week, going down to Erie. Erie has that really good defenseman who's been injured. Erie's had a ton of
Schaefer.
injuries this year.
Yep.
I think that's hurt them in terms of the standings, but when they're fully healthy, they're hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And they're actually led up front by Sam Alfano.
Former Pete.
Yeah, 35 goals this
season.
season.
Good for him.
I didn't want to say this, but it's kind of distressing. Alfano, Lardis, and McHugh have 125 goals between the three of them.
Yeah.
The Petes have 147 as a team.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of goals. We had to trade them to get what we needed.
Yeah.
Not saying they were bad trades, but it's really hard to look around the league and be like, these are three of our draft picks and they're really
tough.
scoring. And I'm not saying the Petes made any bad decisions, but that kind of just gives you an idea of how difficult it's been for the Petes to score as a team this year. I don't think do we have a guy with 20? I don't think we have a guy with 20 goals.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I echo that. It's hard. Like, you have to give up something to get something in this league. So you look, Alfano brought us Lockhart.
Yeah.
Lardis brought us, like we said, Hayes and White.
Yeah.
McHugh.
Matachuk.
We got Matachuk, who's been one of our strongest, and Addy, a young guy who could be a part of this core. Like, you got to give up something. So it's hard when you see guys go on and kind of reach their potential.
Yeah.
But you make those trades again because they helped you.
Yeah.
And we still got a title. So
I don't think Brantford does.
Nope, I don't think they do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Or Oshawa.
Yeah, exactly. So suck on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, again, a little bit more of a somber episode, but we believe in these boys. We like to watch them play, and at the very least, it's more experience, learning how to win. You get to see some exciting hockey up close, live and personal. So get out there, support the boys, show them we love them for this final home stretch. We will be at the games. We hope to see you guys at the games. Get out there, enjoy the hockey before it's gone, because then the summer hits and you miss it. So as always, you can catch our podcasts on Facebook. You can find them on Spotify if you prefer to listen that way, and YouTube as well. We'll post the links on our social media page. Thank you as always for following, and as always, go Pete's, go!